guys. ACAB.
Wait, whenever there's. Right there. It's sad. Yeah, well, 3 blocks on 6. And then there's another 3 blocks. This block is kind of iffy. Like, it's still of our I would like to have just
bring it up, but I wouldn't see why not. If people wanted it, most of the people there will have had the opportunity because they live on the streets and they go around to the service providers who have already been doing it. But if you wanted to tell me that we could do it for one time and see what happens,
I'm trying to set it up for these guys right now on Mondays.
yeah, that would be, yeah, Viria, I'm sure she's got no problem with that.
We were already talking to her.
Yeah, but as long as I'm doing it.
Yeah, it's perfect. Let me just double check with the rest of the hall on Sunday. When do you plan on doing it? In 2 weeks?
humanity involved.
Oh, hi. How are you doing?
Think of the city to do it. Fuck it is.
Neil. Nice to meet you. I feel like I've seen you around.
My name's Carol.
Carol. Neil.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, let's not just do that, but let's think about Tara with Cats Not Cops. Yeah, but she should be able to make it available to her people. Is it just her or her community? Is Cats Not Cops just her, or is it community people?
Yeah.
It is an honest question.
I asked her about this. She said she was anti-vax. So
That's cool. Okay, I don't think Tara's the only one that's part of Cats Not Cops, so you could present it as. No, I was involved a while back when it started, but I'm surprised, and maybe I'm not. So that's cool.
I'm not.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Now listen, we had a tiff between each other because she's going around not wearing masks, feeding the homeless, interacting with hundreds a week. But I'm about to go live, so
Anyway, well, keep in mind, ask the
yes,
folks if you
I'm going to give you like a 99% that it's a yes. I mean, really. Obviously, Carol's like nodding her head like right?
Well, she does the testing.
I know, isn't it? I'm so glad. She's such a great worker.
I came up positive from her test.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she just
Wow.
Yeah, 4 days later. Yes, right. Yeah.
Michael Hancock kills people through policies.
Yeah, yeah. You have to look at it. And when you look at it as individual cases, then you get too caught up. But I think that's 100%. So people stop looking at it as well-being for their sexual and when you start to take each person, a lot of people do definitely think, yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's not taking it personally. That's why I keep saying don't take it personally. You don't have to walk away. You don't have to back down. Don't take it personally. It's hard to remember. Especially when there's so much passion. Keep us being. So that's the just standing there or whatever. That's refreshing.
Okay. You'd be going rolling with us, right? Is it raining? You go listen to dance or whatever.
But it's a learning stage.
Just rolling. I gotta go to the hands closed and grab the cards that we have more opportunity.
I'm gonna go grab it. We're gonna run.
Thanks for coming. Chat, Vince is great too. I seriously loved the feed last night. I cannot express it. Like, I didn't get time to go through it, but I like scanned it and I was like,
Vince, I think we have a lot of similar friends.
yeah?
You friends with Tim, right? Fernandez?
Yes.
Yeah. So he's been someone I've been hanging out with a little bit more these days. You're from Denver, right?
I've lived here as long as I've lived anywhere, yeah.
Are you born in Colorado?
No, I grew up on the East Coast.
Oh, okay.
I graduated high school in Pittsburgh.
Oh,
I've been out
okay.
here about 8 years.
But is this home for you now? Okay, that's what's up, man. I see you skate a lot, man.
Yes, sir.
Your footage is dope, man. Yeah, it's a good shot.
How long you been out? What do you do?
Right now, I'm currently running for Congress against Congresswoman DeGette.
I followed you on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think I saw that. But
What do we got to do to help you beat Diane?
that question, there are a million answers to that question. But
That's a
for
question
me,
I've been pondering for years.
I think the most important thing for me to do is to participate as much as I can and honestly listen to people, which I think is sadly not happening in any part of our city, especially by our federal representative, right? And I think that's the starting point, which is sad. That's like basic representation.
And it's something that Diane gets credit for doing really garbage.
Well, I mean, if you're actually in the community with people like anyone who's even, that's the thing, it doesn't even have to be a community activist or an organizer, even if you go into the establishment, people would like quite quickly tell you, they're like, yeah, we've literally never seen her a day. And I'm like, see, that's crazy to me because she's been in office for literally years. So that to me says a lot about what we're dealing with. I mean, I think you're a political you run a grassroots campaign. I think people talk. You know, eventually money, if that is something that makes sense, and you do. But you're taking the road less traveled. So I've been running this broke ass campaign for like 6 months now. We announced this month, but like been at this for
At least you had a build in the background.
Little bit, yeah, underground.
I've done enough campaigns now where they're like, hey, we're announcing tomorrow and we have no dollars.
no.
We haven't even set up an crew yet. I'm like, cool, that'll work.
Yeah, that's a risky approach. Don't know if that's gonna work. I mean, the nice part is like I've been in this business for a little while, and so it's like I do have the understanding of like working their ass off for that. And like, thankfully, as a result of that, we've had a good turnout for what would normally be something that probably people show up to. If I'm being real, I mean, I've seen that happen.
Yeah,
I've
that's
seen
true,
that
yeah.
happen, you know, and I think that was something that, you know, as someone who hasn't ever run, doesn't have like the same kind of any elected official that I've before, you know, like it's nice to see people really want that to participate and see this happen. I mean, like that has been the most encouraging part. That has felt like everywhere. We need to put this shit, like, DeGette is not the future. Even people who are in the Democratic Party are like, we don't like it. And I'm like, see, like, there's a collective.
Somebody has to be willing to take it off.
Well, and I think that when you look at some of the past people who've done the thing that we're trying to do, it's like, I've seen some mistakes there that are someone who hasn't established it's kind of hard to make the value. You know, she can't make that stuff like that is the story, but then I'm like, that's something that you totally did, right? So I think a lot of folks started some kind of mobilizing around her. Syra was someone who I thought sang a lot of the good stuff, like did a lot of the right things. But I'm like, you know, when you move here and run right around without any sort of like action, like there's only one thing. You don't at least have something that's my I wish she would. I mean, the real answer is that if she would have won, I would have. I'd be like,
Yeah, it's like give you a snapshot
down
of
with
how
that
many
shit.
you're doing this. Yeah.
But like, we think the time for us is now, you know, because I think the grassroots candidate. We get every single Democratic establishment. I think a lot of people just consider like fight and yeah, well, there might be probably a lobby. And I'm like, what? That's not where I'm coming from. So, joke's on you. I don't have anything to lose at this moment. So, you know, like, that's where we're at. But
I mean, the grassroots and the activists are the ones that are most frustrating. It's easy for her to just sign the right thing, and the post office the right one, pass it off to the friends of the press, speak out.
I mean, and you know, she's not even doing that. Like, she's got a whole team of people who are doing that.
Hello. All right.
It is.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out today. My name is Ra, they, them pronouns. I'm here representing myself, but we are a collection of mutual aid workers throughout the city that just saw a need. And so weekly, many of us are going out to sweeps 3 times a week on average, which has been a much higher rate than what we're used to. This past month, we saw 11 sweeps in 1 month. That was a historic high for Denver. The month before was 10, which was a historic high for that month. So we knew when we heard the announcement for the All-Star Games that this was going to be directly targeted towards our unhoused neighbors. So we started keeping track and we started planning, and we figured, you know, if they're going to target our unhoused neighbors during this time, we're also going to use the media that's coming to our city and all the attention that we're going to be getting to use this as an opportunity to highlight what's going on in our city. As of right now, Mayor Hancock has proven that he only cares about development in the city and capitalist interests. When it comes to our unhoused neighbors, they constantly say that we have shelters and we have these other resources, but really they're just a lot of shallow kind of a narrative or a way of just kind of showing or looking like they're showboating to other people around the city, when actually these are kind of hollow promises. So shelters are not the answer. We don't have the answer right now. From the city's perspective, our answer is housing first always. So thank you for coming here. We're going to be talking about people's experiences that's happened over the last year. As we know, as a community, housed or not housed, we have experienced a lot of grief over the last year. We're all dealing with it in our own ways. We've all experienced grief in our own ways. So keeping that in mind, when we see these sweeps, which for people who don't know what a sweep is, it is a displacement of our unhoused neighbors, and it is often violent. And if it's not violent, then they are throwing away all of their items that help them survive in the streets, and would be potentially give them access to housing for things like IDs and things of that nature. A little nervous.
You got it, Rob. Yeah, Rob. Woo-hoo!
So these sweeps are violent, and they are often happening under the radar. So we go there and we bring coffee, donuts, breakfast in ways to make these less traumatic, because the information that's out there is showing that sweeps are like going through a natural disaster. So if you can think about going through a natural disaster and the trauma response that you would have, and then think about going through that just about every month. Many of our unhoused neighbors are experiencing this about 12 times a year right now. So just kind of keeping these things in mind while we're marching and why we're doing this, and keeping centered of any actions that we're doing today, making sure that anything that we are doing is not going to negatively impact our unhoused community. So I'd really appreciate that. And then we have Jenna for our land acknowledgement. Thank you.
Woo! Rob.
Thanks everyone for being here today and showing support for our unhoused neighbors. As Ra has mentioned, these displacements and these sweeps have been extremely violent, and they've also taken away resources and people's ways of identifying themselves that would help them get access to jobs, housing, and other resources to help them to survive. I've seen firsthand how heartless many of DPD are, but there actually is quite a split between people in the police force. I mean, ACAB, but also some of these police actually are starting to feel the impacts of these sweeps amongst other people, and yet they're still just following orders. So I also want to acknowledge the fact that we are on stolen Indigenous land. Every single person here who is not of Indigenous descent is benefiting from white supremacy and benefiting from the continued erasure and genocide of other Indigenous people. So I'd like to announce that we live on the homelands of the Ute, Cheyenne, Arapaho, Lakota, Kiowa, and 48 other existing tribes, including the Chicano and Mexica, and their continued generations who live and work to thrive in the land you now call Denver, Colorado. Land acknowledgement is just the first step to learn restorative justice and healing and try to help the disproportionately impacted communities who deserve it most with real transformative education and accountability. It's time for us and those folks who are settlers and descendants of settlers and colonizers to learn from the mistakes of erasing communities and learn how to be better ancestors now. So as we march today, please keep that in mind, and every day, think about how you can leverage your privilege, whatever varying degree of that you have, to help disproportionately impacted communities. There's a lot of things that impact all of us, but especially those who are unhoused, those who are indigenous, things like, and companies like Suncor, and these large polluters who are literally killing us and causing issues that people are dealing with daily. Renee Miar Chacon was supposed to be here today to speak, and she was unable to, but she can testify to the fact that places like Suncor are damaging our unhoused communities as well as our housed communities. Her son has nosebleeds almost daily from the impacts of pollution, and firsthand knows what it's like to be a sibling of an unhoused person who has passed away due to negligence. And it's obvious that we have more than enough resources in this city to keep developing and keep building these high-rises and luxury condos, and most of those are vacant. There's a lot of them that are vacant because people can't afford them, and yet we still have people that are unhoused and sleeping on the streets. So we will have a time where we acknowledge the folks that we have lost in the last year and beyond, whether it was from the cold and the winter that we just finished, as well as the heat waves that have been passing through. So climate change is real, y'all, and it's time that we all do something because the clock is ticking. So thank you for being here.
Hi, my name is John Stoughton. For those who don't know me, I work with From Allies to Abolitionists and a few other groups throughout the city. And before we got to the in memoriam section, I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of what we've learned in the last 6 months, 9 months, year of attending these sweeps and watching these sweeps. I think what a lot of housed residents don't understand is how frequent these happen. You're talking about 2 or 3 sweeps a week scattered across the city, and that affects hundreds and hundreds of people every month. You're talking about forced evictions that are traumatizing, that cost thousands and thousands of dollars. I mean, in 2020, the average cost for a sweep is about $21,000. So far in 2021, there have been 57 sweeps in the first 6 months. That's a lot of money that could be redirected towards direct services, a lot of money that could be put towards compassionate services, and instead we're just spitting it out, and we're spending it, and we're doing it cyclically because these sweeps happen in the same places to the same people on the same blocks. So this is not a real solution. What From Allies to Abolitionists has tried to do is to reveal to the people what the city refuses to tell us. We've asked for core requests regarding the police costs, for the environmental hazard costs, for the fencing costs. At every turn, when we haven't been given the right information, we've been asked to pay for that information, for public access information. And so instead we decided to do our own audit. So I've attended more than 50 sweeps in the last 6 months, and I've documented every police officer that's there, every EHS worker that's there, every line of fencing that's there, and a lot of other folks in this crowd have been at every sweep as well. And we've seen that trauma, and we've seen that violence on a weekly basis. And going back to what Ra said about grieving, we've all been through so much in the last year and a half, and we've struggled, and we've lost touch with the past and like our normalcy and all of these things that we've had to grieve, and we thought it was a real struggle. But I think you have to consider the struggle that being on the street is all the time, 24/7, pandemic or not. And these people understand what struggle is, and the city has not done anything to make that struggle easier. They have made that struggle infinitely harder. And a lot of us housed residents, I'm assuming the majority of us here, we likely could not conceive of living on the street for a week, or let alone a month, or for years, and to continue to be treated like less than human, to be subhuman, to be treated like a piece of trash in some instances is fucking heartbreaking that happens in this city. And I appreciate all of you being here. I appreciate all the mutual aid workers that have poured their lives into this in the last 6 months, 9 months, sometimes years or even decades. It's a constant inspiration for us, but I think it's important to remember how lucky we all are to have time to come to a protest like this and to be able to stand up for those who cannot necessarily stand up for themselves. And I'm very excited to have some of our unhoused neighbors here today to be able to speak up and let their voice be heard. So thank you so much for coming, and we're going to have Viri, I believe, come up for the In Memoriam section.
So, as John said, this has been a kind of a hard year for everyone. We've had to reforge our relationship with grief. Being housed, we're able to do this a lot easier. The unhoused, if you can imagine, like John has said, it's like month after month after month, they're dealing with the loss and the grief, and they don't know the vulnerability that we have as a collective is like just intensified in the camps. There's so much fear and violence, and there's folks I know that have woken up next to a loved one who's dead. They've woken up in a camp where they check on a fellow camper who's passed. This is not what we experience as housed. So I can only barely imagine how this plays with them emotionally, psychologically. So we wanted to take some time here to remember some of the unhoused that have passed recently in the last year, in the last few months. I know of, actually, there's been about 10 in the last month that have passed. And talking with unhoused, I asked them to share, and they say, oh, but they died from overdose or from alcohol addiction. I heard this from almost everybody. I was like, it does not matter what they died of. It does not matter. They're a human, and the reason they're out here, maybe because of drug addiction, it enhances their addiction. They are human beings, and we need to be caring for all of these human beings. So that was one thing I ran into when talking to some of the unhoused about this segment that really shocked me. Let's see, I had some stats also. I think it's curious that in the unhoused community, only less than 10% die of natural causes. And in the housed community, there's over 60%. In the unhoused community, about 60% is from drug and alcohol addictions. And another 20% is from violence. Now, how many housed folks do we know that die from violence? Not, it's a very small amount. Also, as you know, our society is very racist, classist, and some of the stats I ran into also are in Denver. In Denver, there are 14% of the black folks that die are unhoused, and there's only 9% in our general population. And with indigenous folks, it's even worse. There's 0.3% of our general population is indigenous, but 2% of the unhoused that die are Native folks. This is unacceptable. I mean, any death is unacceptable, but this is unbelievable, unacceptable. This has to stop. So, for our unhoused community, the streets are extremely dangerous. They can die from exposure. They can die from the elements, from violence, from drugs, just a number of things. I mean, dying out on the streets is just it happens all the time. It's a way of life. You go around to a camp and ask how folks are doing, and they talk about somebody who's passed. I invited several unhoused folks to come and speak, who really wanted to, about some of their dear family, community that have died. I know there aren't too many of them here at this point, so maybe if I could just talk about a few of them. There was a man named Bear. He is a anchor. He was an anchor at the Sonny Lawson Park. He stood up for his community at all the sweeps. He had a family. He had kids. Many of unhoused have kids, and some they haven't seen for years and years. He had kids, and he's passed, and he's very much missed. Another man named Cuba. I don't know, you may have heard of Cuba. Very, very wonderful man. Friendly. He would, as Anna said, he liked to gang out with the Indians. In other words, he felt his indigenous roots a lot, and he would hang out with Native Americans. And he passed recently. And there's just a few more that I know personally. Corey, Anthony, drug overdoses. I do want to share one story, since we're not going to have a whole lot of stories. This is a personal story. There's a young woman at a camp that nearly died. She overdosed. She had Narcan. They had Narcan for her. She overdosed. She explained this to me. She had a near-death experience. This was extremely moving for her. She has decided not to do drugs at all anymore. She told me about this experience and just cried and cried and cried. It was so intense. But she was brought back, and she's very young. So I'm hoping that will stay with her throughout her life. I'm going to open up the mic. Okay. We're going to open up the mic. Is that working? Better? All right, we'll try this. So, Bear, we think of Bear, we think of Cuba, we think of Corey, Anthony, Vincent Lee Brown. I forgot about Vincent Lee Brown. This is a fella that one of the nicest folks. He would do anything for you. That's often the case, of these folks out in the unhoused community. They take care of each other. He is sadly missed. There's folks, I know Sarah was going to be here, and she lost her boyfriend 3 years ago to murder out in the streets. Almost everybody you talk to, person that you talk to on the streets knows personally of someone that they love dearly that has passed. So there are some advocates here and some unhoused. I think Mac would like to talk and share some of their experiences. I didn't want to take too much of this up here because I'm just, I'm an advocate. I'm not experiencing this as they are. So we can say prayers, hopefully get them all into housing, and the help they need for mental health, for drug addiction, for alcohol, and there's no reason anybody should be dying on the streets.
Hello. Microphone check. Okay. It's kind of hard, but it was in January. Me and Donnell hanging out all morning. You know? We do. We smoking some weed. Hello.
Still got tear gas on it from last summer, so be careful.
We won't touch our face after this.
Don't lose that phone, Mac.
Oh, no, whoa, don't do that. All right, we're going to do this right. Okay, it's like in January. Me and my partner, he's like my little brother. I lost all three of them. He just stuck there by me. Stayed in the tent with me. You know, we was smoking weed. It was like about 10 o'clock we got there. And Pam, she broke us these big old hot links. I was talking about they was good, big. So the plan was, he gonna get some rest. He gonna go down to St. Francis, get his mail. He gonna come back. We gonna walk to the dollar store. We gonna get these chips and some chili. So we were like, oh yeah, we just, that's on our mind. So he lay down. It's like 12 o'clock. So Esther come. And I said, leave him alone. He just went to sleep. She was like, I'm gonna come back. So she left. I'm just sitting there, listening to the music. I don't know. I could have sworn I seen him move all this time, but you know, it was kind of odd because he was sleeping towards the door. But I could have sworn I seen him move. So Esther came back. He's sitting there. I said, don't mess with him because he's about to go to St. Francis. And plus, we were gonna walk to the dollar store. So me and Esther sit down. You know, I'm still bugging him. Body in. But anyway, David came over. And I was like, D, move. So David climbed over. So we all in there talking. David's girl came. And I said, D, move. So I said, Esther, wait, get your man. Y'all better go to y'all tent. You know, it felt kind of odd because everything went great. And as soon as she touched him, it was like a rock that everybody would know it is. You didn't want to believe it. And my heart just... I just couldn't believe it. So everybody looked at each other. David was scared. He ran. I said, Esther, and she was just hollering. The girl called the police. We was trying to revive him. She was like, go 10, pump, 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 go 10, pump, pump. The bad part was, the fucking fire station right there. None of them came. We waited 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Then when they came, the police had us sitting outside in the snow for like 3 hours. The coroner was like, well, he died a natural death because it was 12, woke him up at 2:30. It was 2 hours. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't even talk. Esther kept calling. So I went back in the tent. I didn't come out. I didn't know what to do. It's something that you just can't believe. But only the good part about it was, later on that night, I heard him running around the tent because he used to always fix the tent before the dang Tarpdale. He said, we good, come in. We eat. Then he go back out there, he wasn't satisfied. I heard him constantly for like 4 days. But I knew he was there. But I love you, D.
Hey, how y'all doing today? My name's Kenny, and I just wanted to speak about my past experiences with homelessness and the sweeps around this city, because this has been a constant thing since about 2012 is when the urban camping ban became a thing. So this has been going on for a really long time. So I just wanted to speak to some of that. You know, it wasn't too long ago that I was homeless myself around this city. And before I even began, like, it's folks like y'all that kept me going. It was folks that were able to come around to come see me when I was in some of the darkest places of my life. So I just wanted to say that first. It's hard for me to talk about this. I don't enjoy talking about it. But within the sweeps, since they've been going on for so long, I'm just going to describe how one of them would actually go. And this is back in the day, so they're even worse now. So I would probably be, I don't know, just waking up. Because they used to do them around at about 9, 10 o'clock. They don't do them as early as they do now. At like 4 or 5 in the morning, trying to be stealthy, sneaky. Like, let me just say fucks. You know? And, I'd probably just be waking up, you know, because most of the time I'd have to stay up most of the night, you know, trying to make sure that I didn't get caught up by one of their patrols in the evening, trying to set up, trying to find a place to sleep, finding a good bush or a good tree or a good break. So I'm probably already exhausted. I haven't had any food. Probably haven't had any water yet. You know, and I'll probably be on the ground. I didn't have a tent when I was homeless, so like I just had a sleeping bag, that was it. So I'd probably just be sleeping. And then one of the ones I remember, the cop ripped off my sleeping bag before they even said anything. They like snuck up on me and just ripped off my sleeping bag and said, "Wake up! It's time to get moving. You can't stay here." Almost as if it was a sick joke, a game. Because it feels like when these cops are going around doing this to people, they have no consideration for humanity whatsoever. So I'll get up and I'll hopefully grab my bag. I used to use my bag as my pillow because otherwise someone could take that shit, usually the cops. So I'd get up, try to go somewhere, try to go find some food, just be exhausted. Maybe find a bench to go lay down. Oh, there's another patrol. Gotta get up again. This is probably 4 or 5 times I've been harassed and it's not even noon yet. And the really fucked up thing is it was just a daily occurrence. You know, I'm trying to build myself back up, trying to find a place where I can shower, get some food, get something to eat so I can get a job, so I can do the productive member of society thing. So I can stop getting harassed and abused by the city. You know, and when you have sleep deprivation, hunger, lack of water, and you're in a city like this, you know, where it has so much resources, so much money that's just flowing around this city. It's been happening like that for this boom has been happening forever. So there's no fucking excuses. And you just get to those points in your life where it's just like, you know, the Geneva Convention defines torture in some of those types of ways. They haven't physically beaten me yet. Oh, that would occasionally happen sometimes at the sweeps. Those are those nice late night sweeps where they catch you at midnight, 1 o'clock. Nobody's around. Just you and a couple of homies. They got 4 or 5 cruisers with 20 cops that pull up right when you're just trying to find a place to sleep. You know, and some of those white cops like to take their time. They see a melanated person. You heard the statistics earlier. They enjoy fucking with us. People don't like to admit that shit, but they do. There's a sick, twisted pleasure in it. People call it white supremacy. I don't like to call it that. I call it white sickness because it's a mental illness. It is a sickness. It is a disease. It is an infection. So, you know, it's sometimes it's hard to go through details and shit. But the harassment never stopped. You know? And I'm probably one of the lucky ones. You know? A lot of people have mental illness when they're out in the streets. A lot of people aren't out in the streets for no fucking reason. A narrative has to fucking stop. Like, I hate that shit. Like, do you think someone chooses that? I don't think anybody really chooses that, you know? If they're at a place where they choose that, then that's their fucking choice too.
Yeah.
So at this fucking point, we've already gone through how the city is just over damn near a decade just neglected its citizens. There are so many ways it's done it, but we'll just focus on this one today. You know, so I just hope y'all understand, and I hope people like realize that, you know, this has been happening for so long. These tactics that are oh so varied, they've been perfecting them for years. And it has to stop. And that is the most important thing. This shit cannot continue.
Yeah.
You know, I just, sorry, some of y'all know me for being a bit more hype, but there's no hypeness to this situation. It's just down and depressing. You know, fuck the person who kicks someone when they're down. Let me say that again. Fuck the person and or people and or city and or government that kicks someone when they're down. You know, and I guess to end off, I'll just circle back to that shit, humanity. You know, Denver for a long time has proven that its humanity is basically non-existent. It's about that guapo. It's about that money. It's about them dineros. If it ain't about cash, the city of Denver does not give a shit. Fuck you. Not just leave it with that.
Okay, now I can talk loud, huh? But be careful though, because I got tear gas from this last night. Really, no, we all did. So, just want to put it out there, if there's anyone else who would like to speak about any memories of some unhoused that have died, or any experiences with unhoused, of being unhoused, please come up. Okay, ready.
This work? Okay, cool. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Ren, and from about 8 months the past year, I was at almost every single sweep, so I've seen some shit. Can tell you some stories about last year. For instance, Civic Center Park, where they essentially just threw everyone's shit out in the entire park, kept them out of the park, gave Tay Anderson a concussion when he tried to negotiate. This is dark stuff, but I think really what I'd like to say is more just that personally, as a service provider, as a mutual aid worker, and just as a friend, in one case as an ex, to people on the street, the sweeps make my life and my job impossible, because my friends are constantly in danger, they are constantly under stress, and I have seen so many people's dreams of community just shattered, because there is no way that we can do something to address homelessness when people are constantly getting moved around. They're constantly losing everything they own. At every single sweep that I have been at least one person lost everything they owned. This happened to a friend of mine, and she called me afterward in tears. She was sobbing. She was suicidal, talked about wanting to kill herself because she lost medications, she lost important documents, she lost irreplaceable family mementos, and that's the kind of trauma that we're talking about here, weekly, 3 times a week. But I also just want to leave maybe with a note of hope, because as the sweeps are preventing that kind of community from forming, that's the kind of thing that we can do if we end them, right? We know how to end homelessness. It ends with housing, and we know how to improve conditions on the streets. It starts with community, and if we stop the sweeps, we can make every camp an SOS site, a Jerryville. We can make every camp a thriving community. And so there is a path forward to enshrining housing as a universal right for all human beings. And that path begins here. This is step 1. Stop the sweeps.
Okay, we have another speaker. We have someone we all, most of us here, know and love dearly. Paul.
Hello. How you guys doing today? I am homeless. I had a good week and I had a bad week. I had a good week and a bad week. I had a marvelous week.
We can hear you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I had a good week and a bad week. Yeah. I had a good week and I had a past week with a friend. My brother friend came and got me. So I went to LA and watched me got married for the whole week. I heard a lot of people out here ain't bad week. So I don't know.
everybody right now. Like marijuana now. So a guy got shot last night in Vegas. You know, there's a lot of things going on out here. It ain't us doing it. It's not us doing it. And I'm like 18. I'm depressed. And I'm kind of lost. Because I don't know tomorrow will be coming. I don't know if you know what I'm saying, but I don't want to talk to you. But Mother Teresa got me. I love this place because we got a lot of community people that's out here that stick together. Even not from the city, like working to help us. I ain't never felt so much love in my life and family. I'm just baffled because it's been hard today. It's been a long day. It's still gonna be a long night. I don't know where I don't.
Make it a good day, though.
Hey y'all. Hey Paul. Y'all hear me? Yes. So I just wanted to make a couple other points about some of the narratives that we hear that are, you know, proposing the sweeps, that are, you know, supporting the war on the poor that we have here in Denver that's been waged. On December 29th, there was a study that came out from the task force to address homelessness during COVID. And on December 29th, at the 48th Street shelter, the COVID positivity rate was 32%. 32%. On the same day in Colorado, the national average was, the state average was 6.29%. So when we're talking about telling people to go to shelters, and when just last night on City Council, they're talking about how many shelter beds are available, even though someone from the city had just gotten on and given a presentation about how there's not enough shelter beds for everybody. But of course, some questions had to be asked, and someone from the mayor's office had to call in and correct that, but it's not correct. And so but either way, when we're talking about shelters during a global pandemic, we're asking people to die to go sleep in a bed. What are we doing? You know, like the real delusional people are the people asking people on the streets to do that and put their lives at risk for a bed. And you know, the other thing that we ask people to give up are their fingers and their toes. That's the cost of a bed of housing in this city. It takes that to get people housing, and that's disgusting. We should not allow that. So anybody who's you know who is proposing this, we talk about, you know, the issues with mental illness and with substance use. But I want to talk about first, before we ever start talking about any of that, I want to talk about the people who are mentally without will to do anything about the housing crisis in Denver. Those are the people that we need to be talking about. And I just wanted to also note that there's a really big bathroom problem in Denver. There's one 24-hour bathroom in the city of Denver. One that's open right now. So, you know, when people are talking about calling into 311 about the feces and the excrement and complaining, and the neighbor, and now there's even a button on 311 that you can click, and it says encampment, and it's sick, you know. Well, first, why don't we have a problem on 311 that says bathrooms? How there's no bathrooms, and everybody can call in and complain about the bathrooms and how they're locked up or they're out of service. Why don't we have a button on there that says trash pickup? You know, nobody gets trash pickup in this city. It's disgusting. So those are the issues that the city is intentionally blocking from people experiencing homelessness. That is what is the problem. That's what's causing this. And so before we want to talk about anything else, that's how we first stop what, you know, people are complaining about. That's how we need to stop the sweeps, and we need to get people into housing. And in the meantime, we need to give trash pickup. We need to give bathrooms. We need to open up some bathrooms, and we need to stop forcing people into shelters if they you know, because people act like, oh, if they don't go to the shelter, then that means that they want to live on the streets. That's a false equivalency. That's not true. That's not what it means. If people don't want to go to shelters, it's because the shelters are traumatizing, or they've been sexually assaulted in shelters, or they don't let them bring their stuff or their dogs, or whatever else the reason. But whatever the reason is, just because you don't want to go to a shelter does not mean that you want to live on the streets. That's not, it doesn't correlate. So anyway, just want to make sure to make that clear.
So, those of you that know me, those of you that don't, doesn't really matter. I wanted to speak on a very important issue, priority one in our community, which is abusers. Those of you, comrades, melanated, whatnot, that have been deemed as abusers, you are not welcome. You are not welcome in this community. If you show up at a protest and you intend to use your voice will be silenced. You will be evacuated. You will be moved out. People who are known by several other people as abusers are not welcome at events like these. And the reason for that is, we simply can't afford infighting. We can't afford to jeopardize the community we have as of now. So there have been already a couple abusers that have showed up to this protest, and I'm just letting you know now, you are not welcome within this community. And as I say again, I repeat, you will be driven out. If you do not belong, then you do not belong. I would also like to address the comrades. Some of you know people, some of you are associated with people who have white savior complexes. They have a savior complex. That is something that will not be tolerated as well. Thank you.
Okay, we have another speaker, Tammy. She comes down to Mutual Aid Mondays every week, and she wanted to share something.
Hello, my name is Tammy, and I just wanted to let y'all know that what the homeless people have done, the government and the organizations that represent me and gave me a shelter, they end up making my life even worse and making my mental state more unhealthy than it's ever been. They threw all my stuff out in the street, and they let everybody go through all my personal stuff. They didn't care about anything. I asked the police to help, and they didn't want any help. And I still got no phone calls back from the mayor because the fact that what they're doing to all the women that are out there that are supposed to be lifting them up and encouraging them, all they're doing is knocking them down and hurting them.
Thank you for sharing. Tammy is referring to the Ramada Inn that had 9 unhoused women staying there through COVID. They got a 3-hour notice to get out. 3-hour notice one day to get out.
Hey, I'm on the wrap up. I'm Mark, and community friend.
Gotta hold both buttons.
Helper. Good to be here with everybody. And, the coalition does a memoriam every year. We lose probably 220 to 280 people a year who are unhoused on the streets. And started for me back in '99. I used to call it the assault on the poor. Now I call it the war on the poor. And it is an all-out war on the poor. And we've all lost people we know, that we love. We've all made some beautiful relationships and connections in the city. Think of Paul and Ren. And one day we were in front of D-Hall, and we were all in kind of a heavy spirit. But I think it was Paul's birthday, right, Paul? It's your birthday? 55? Can I say that? Double. And I told him double grace. And just then, 2 red-tailed hawks descended from above, right over our head, like 5 feet over our head. And then they just went up to the precipice of the roof. And it really felt like an amazing blessing from above. It was just an amazing experience. And that's the thing I want to end on, is hope. Hope, peace, love, service. Si se puede. We can do this. Yes, we can do this, right? Together we can do this. We can come together and we can walk in friendship and love and serve one another. And we all have our own positions, and sometimes we get friction with each other, but we keep moving, we keep rolling. And one of the things that happens when community helpers come together with unhoused community members. It's one of the most humbling things that I ever see, and it stays with me for the rest of the day, sometimes the next day. There's real beauty that happens in the midst of the hardships and the trials and the tribulations. So we keep our focus on hope. Together, if we can love and serve one another, we can hopefully make some steps forward. So we're going to wrap with that. We're getting ready to head down to the stadium, and I've just asked for protection and peace over everyone today. And it's just good to be here with everybody. Thank you.
All right, before we head out, I'm here to give you all, if you have a desire to do something else, we have a call to action. Outside of just marching and protesting, there's a lot of other stuff we can do. First and foremost, 3 days a week, help is needed to move camps and to provide drinking water, food, and whatnot. If you're willing to do that, we'd love to have you. For those of you that aren't able to do that or don't have that in your capacity, there's a lot of other stuff we can do. I don't know if you've been around downtown lately, but all the rocks and the fencing, all the rocks and the fencing that is put out. So all the people calling 311 for the encampments, we need to be calling 311 to talk about how that is against the law. They need to be removing these fences. They need to be removing these rocks. The city is condoning something that is actually against their code. So if you have a chance, please call 311. We'd also like you to show up for city council meetings. If you can speak at city council, you can sign up starting at noon on Fridays, then it starts at 5 o'clock on Mondays. You can sign up to get general public comment for that, and there's a lot of other ways to sign up for general public comment. You can show up on Mondays for Mutual Aid Mondays starting at 4 o'clock. All of these things are necessary, and they will help move this forward. And the reality is the only people out here that need saving aren't actually here right now. It's the police down the road that are stood there. They need saved. It's the Mayor Hancock and his fucking cronies. They need saved. None of us need saved. None of the unhoused need saved. We just need to be treated like humans. Everybody is a human and needs to be treated as such. And I think I'm all here, and maybe Jess is going to bring us out. Or no, Tess is, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we're going to start marching, and y'all can join us, and we just want to make sure that everybody stays safe. We've got some people on bikes that are going to be, kind of guiding the way and making sure that the boundaries are set. So just, we're not trying, this is going to be peaceful, you guys. We're not trying to, create violence or there's no rioting. This is a peaceful protest, and that's what we're trying to do. But be careful, there's going to be a lot of drunk people, because, baseball. And so, just have your wits about you and be safe. And so we need some help carrying signs and pins. So if anybody's willing to, pack under an arm or your backpack as a tent, that would be great. Yeah. And then, we're just carrying this. And then the other thing is that if we get separated for whatever reason, just meet back. Hey, Jamie? What do we say about where we're going to meet up if we get separated?
We'll sort that out.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so just, we're stadium. Yeah, stay together. We're going to the stadium, and we'll see you there.
Come over and grab a tent if you'd like to be a part of that. If you pull the pegs out, give them to Jeff in the purple shirt.
That's the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Nice to meet you in person.
Nice to meet you too. Thanks for coming out.
I'm sorry. Which country are you reporting from?
I am reporting from the United States country in Denver, Colorado. Somebody just asked me what country I was reporting from. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Oh, awesome. I was actually calling because this event.
I wish I was there now. Check at work. Is that you taking? Oh no. Chris. Chris, hi. Who's check at work? Jill, it's you that asked what? Oh, county. I don't have my glasses on, Jill. I'm sorry, sweetie. We are in Denver County, Denver, Colorado. We're gonna go march. There's an all-star game, so it got moved. You know, Georgia kicked out from Georgia, right? Because and they don't. Major League Baseball never does. There's Brian in his horn. I'm so glad you brought that. I'm so glad you brought that. But
Gotta make it fun.
no, it was county, not country.
That's right.
And it was somebody I know. But she's across the country. Hi, Jill.
That's right, folks. We are headed.
Hi, Christabel.
Yeah, our hope is to be about 5, but I don't
David's got one on his own. You're gonna get her. He's gonna get really strong armor. Maybe if you hold it like in the middle. You're gonna do it? Laura's gonna do it.
No, there's absolutely not. We're on the 3rd. Me? I think so. I got the red deal. I got Palestine. I mean, if you get some like 21st, 22nd sleep. Yeah,
Wazi.
we're on 30th. Wazi is what, like 5 blocks?
It's 5. I think it's 5.
Oh yes, I have heard about this.
Is it 5?
Oh no.
How far is it, Tess?
It's not very far. It's not. It's like maybe we max it out at maybe like a mile.
A mile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not too bad. $10 is usually like a mile.
Yeah.
Cool.
I want to say that I made a statement just now, not even 20 minutes ago, for the purpose of getting rid of abusers.
We get more hands on these tents.
Yeah. Let's focus on the tents.
Anybody else willing to carry a tent with us?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. I may turn around early, but bunch of these get there. You're hosting the meeting. What meeting are you hosting? Do you think the case law is what? No.
We have an issue with that use protest items. Probably that stupid as
What's up? I don't know, just come on, Chad. Come on, people.
Yeah. I'm not a lawyer. But we play with a lot of lawyers, and they love to take this one.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, folks, here you go.
They're carrying tents. It goes so fast. I'm glad Brian brought his horn. I'm glad Brian brought his horn.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad Brian's here.
Yeah.
Mr. Loma. Alright. Okay. Alright. Here's some good ones from Adrian.
Now if I can learn to do more than one note.
Public health means stop those sweeps! Liar, liar, pants on fire, sweeps conducted by Evan Dreyer! Public health means stop the sweeps! Liar, liar, pants on fire, sweeps conducted by Evan Dreyer! I know, it's too complicated.
How do we do this? Go around to the left?
Go in the circle.
Okay, guys, bring move.
No justice, no peace! Stop the sweeps! 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 No justice, no peace! Stop the sweeps!
Tighten up, slow down.
Stop the sweeps! Hancock lied and people died!
Hancock lied people died.
Hancock lied and 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 people died. Homelessness is not a crime. Stop harassing on our dime. Homelessness is not a crime. Stop harassing on our dime.
Stop harassing on our dime.
Homelessness is not a crime. Stop harassing on our dime.
This is not a crime.
Stop harassing on our dime. Homelessness is not a crime. Homelessness is not a crime. Stop harassing on our dime. Stop harassing on our dime. Homelessness is not a crime. Stop harassing on our dime.
Stop harassing on our dime.
I'm looking for your I'm just looking at your other. Stop the
No justice, no peace. Stop the sweeps. No justice, no peace. Stop the sweeps. No peace. Stop the sweeps.
We solved it, but keep trying to catch up.
The sweeps. Keep the pace slow. No peace. Stop the sweeps. Stop the sweeps.
Let's go. Look at intersection. Yeah. We're going to Blake.
For our neighbors, we must fight. Housing is a human right. For our neighbors, we must fight. Housing is a human right.
Yeah, I think the corner's a good spot to put a couple tents and let people drive by through.
Yep.
Let's go to the corner and then wait for a very
Let's go to the intersection.
I mean, the road's closed anyway.
Yeah, we're going to be taking a left.
For our neighbors, we must fight. Housing is a human right. For our neighbors, we must fight. Housing is a human right. For our neighbors, we must fight. Housing is a human right. For our neighbors, we must fight. Housing is a human right. For our neighbors, we must fight. Housing is a human right. For our neighbors, we must fight. Housing is a human right. For our neighbors, we must fight. Housing is a human right.
Hey, Elise, how's it going today? Doing pretty good. I'm talking to people about how the policies of the city are detrimental to those who do the most work in it and trying to survive and live day to day.
Cool.
You're welcome to come join us. You know, yeah, sure, why not?
In May of 2012, the City and County of Denver enacted a series of laws known as the Urban Camping Ban. These laws were alleged to attempt to clean up panhandling on the 16th Street Mall. What they also did was remove the safe spaces where women slept on sidewalks, under cameras, under the protection of security guards, and even the watchful eye of the Denver police. The space outside of 16th and Curtis to 16th and Arapahoe, which had a bathroom at Skyline Park,
was known as a rape-free zone, a place where women, people who identify as women, would be able to sleep at night under safety of the cameras. Since the urban camping ban has been enacted in Denver, the per capita sexual assault in this city has doubled. These are the impacts of the laws designed to push humans out and bring new money in.
All right, everybody, let's keep moving. House keys, not handcuffs. 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 Keys, not handcuffs. House keys, not handcuffs. House keys, not handcuffs. House keys, not handcuffs. House keys, not handcuffs. Not handcuffs. House keys, not handcuffs. Hancock lied and people died. 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 People died. Hancock lied and people died.
Hancock lied and people died.
Hancock lied and people died. Hancock lied and people died. Hancock lied and people died.
Stop the sweeps! Stop these streets! Stop the sweeps! Stop the sweeps! Stop these streets! Stop the sweeps! Save these streets! Stop the sweeps! Save the sweeps! Stop the sweeps! Save these streets! Stop the sweeps! Stop the streets! Stop the sweeps! Save these streets! Stop the sweeps! Stop the sweeps! Stop the sweeps! Save these streets! Stop the sweeps! Stop the sweeps! Stop the sweeps! Save these streets! Stop the sweeps! Save these streets! Stop the sweeps! 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 Stop the sweeps!
This is what community looks like. This is what community looks like. This is what community looks like.
What community looks like. community looks like. This is what community looks like. This is what community looks like. This is what community looks like.
Who runs the sweep? Not me, not me. Who runs the sweep? We'll see, we'll see. Who runs the sweep? Not me, not me. Who runs the sweep? We'll see, we'll see. Who runs the sweep? Not me, not me. Who runs the sweep? We'll see, we'll see. Who runs the sweep? Not me, not me. Who runs the sweep? We'll see, we'll see. Hancock lied and people died. Hancock lied and people died.
Hancock lied and people died.
Hancock lied and people died.
Hancock lied and people died.
Hancock lied and people died.
Hancock lied and people died.
Hancock lied and people died.
Hancock lied and people died.
Hancock lied and people died.
Tighten up.
Kind of looks like a lizard to me. A lizard.
Yeah, wait, I have more from
Yeah.
Oh no, we're not.
Fist bumping cops and stealing people's propane tanks.
Exactly. Exactly.
Liar, liar, fuck Evan Dreyer.
He doesn't do anything. He's standing around.
Liar, liar, fuck Evan Dreyer.
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 Liar, liar, fuck Evan Dreyer. Liar, liar, fuck Evan Dreyer. Liar, liar, fuck Evan Dreyer. Liar, liar, fuck Evan Dreyer. Liar, liar, fuck Evan Dreyer. Liar, liar, fuck Evan Dreyer. Hancock lied and people died.
Hancock lied and people died.
Hancock lied and people died. Hancock lied and people died.
Hancock lied and people died.
Hancock lied and people died.
Hancock lied and people died.
Hancock lied and people died. Hancock lied and people died. Hancock lied and people died. Hancock lied and people died. Hancock lied and people died. Slow down, tighten up.
Wow. Are they for us? Are they waiting for us? Are they waiting for us? Let's see. Look, we have people waiting for us. Look at that. Tighten up, guys. Tighten up. We gotta tighten up. Gotta go right.
Stay away from our baseball stadium today.
Yep, they're like, stay
This is how
away.
the city treats dissent. This is how the city treats First Amendment rights. They don't care about the homeless. They don't care about us. Are they there for us? Are they going to move?
Why are you in riot gear? I don't see no riot here. Why are you in riot gear? I don't see no riot here. Why are you in riot gear? I don't see no riot here. Why are you in riot gear?
I don't see see no riot here.
Why are you in riot gear?
I don't see no riot here.
I don't see no riot here. Stop the sweeps.
Stop the sweeps.
Stop the sweeps.
Stop the sweeps. Save these streets. Stop the sweeps.
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 Stop the sweeps. Stop the sweeps. Stop the sweeps. Stop the sweeps. Stop the sweeps. Slow it down. Slow it down.
Slow down.
Did you hear him? He's talking about a bunch of cops waiting for us. It's on the phone.
I'm going to take a risk and go talk to him. Let's talk to him. Hey, can you hold this? You want to go over here? Let's go talk to him.
Okay.
You can hold this.
Guys, let's just go on the sidewalk.
We should just walk by them on the sidewalk. It's just, they can't stop us from walking on the sidewalk. What did they say? What did they say?
We are exercising our First Amendment right!
It's closed to protesters. Closed to protesters. The street is closed to protesters.
This is the Denver Police Department. The street is closed to protesters due to safety reasons. You must turn around and go either left or right.
I think that they're not protecting us. Safety for who? Yeah. Not us. Yeah. Safety for who? Are you threatening us?
This is the Denver Police Department. This street is closed due to safety concerns. You must turn around and go either left or right.
We went right before. This is a public street, is it not? How is it closed to protesting? Look, all that like our First Amendment and shit. How is a public street closed to protesting?
Closed to protesters.
Go either left or right.
There's like 40 of us. So dangerous. What the fuck?
Are you really putting hands on a Buddhist, a peaceful, non-violent human
What the fuck is the point? Do you guys feel good about yourselves? Do you feel good? Every time you guys are going to the walking down the street, you take them walking.
You guys will get them
Okay, so get off the sidewalk.
Good, we'll stay on the sidewalk.
Get off the sidewalk.
We'll stay on the sidewalk.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Where's your badge number?
Just walk by single file.
Yeah.
Single file, all right. Single file on the
Just
sidewalk.
let me do it. Single file on the sidewalk. That makes sense.
Yeah, maybe we all should just fuck off. Maybe we can all just fuck off. Move back! 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 Move back!
Stay on the sidewalk. Stay on the sidewalk.
Sidewalk, stay on the sidewalk. Sidewalk's open.
Stay on the sidewalk.
Sidewalk is public property.
Public property!
Move off the sidewalk.
You're blocking our progress. Get the fuck out the way. Shut up! Shut up! Get the fuck out the way!
You are blocking public property.
What is your name and badge number? Name and badge number, sir.
It's obviously a public sidewalk.
Get the fuck out of our way!
We may enter east on 26. That's what he just said.
This is what freedom of speech looks like! You said we could walk through, sir. Sergeant?
Started the public.
I think you guys are blocking the streets!
Blocking public property.
Oh, except when you walk that way, we'll be met by another line.
Back up! Back up! Freedom! Freedom!
What the fucking smoke out
Yo, cut! This motherfucker right here smirking in the back, no badge number, no name, fucking joke ass.
Put it back in his helmet.
Hey guys!
He said you can go left or right. There's another SWAT vehicle right there.
Got enough cops.
Jesus Christ, there are so few of us.
We're really that threatening.
Are we that threatening?
All of this for us.
Within the police department, the spirit of trust and protest turn around.
Yeah, that's fucking weird. Ask for the public
No, I don't fucking remember you.